In the next edition of It's About Money, we'll be talking to Chad Rieflin from the Credit Education Bureau from Catholic Family Center about becoming wealthy. Stay tuned for our next program of It's About Money. Hello and welcome to another edition of It's About Money. I'm Nannette Nocon and thank you for joining us. Our guest today is Chad Rieflin, who is with the Catholic Family Center's Credit Education Bureau. Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. It's good to be back again.
You've been at the Credit Bureau for a while, haven't you?
Yes, I've been the director for the Credit Education Bureau for about 8 years now.
Great.
And it's been a very fantastic opportunity to be able to do something that gives back to the community and helps people with things that are very vital to their lives and everyone's life.
Great, that's wonderful. Now, tell me about some of the programs that you offer. I know there's a number of them. We'll be talking about two of them specifically. But what is the objective? What is the purpose of the Credit Education Bureau? What is it that you hope to meet? What is your objective?
Well, the Credit Education Bureau is actually now a program of Catholic Family Center, which is one of the largest nonprofit providers here in Western New York. And they offer a large range of services to pretty much every single person in the community here. And the purpose of the Credit Education Bureau is to offer financial education. So we focus on any type of service or program that will help us to spread the word about good money management and good credit management. Mm-hmm. And then we also develop different programs that help people to learn the skills that they need to have and to become empowered to be good at managing their finances and credit. Some of those things that we offer currently is, first of all, a free financial hotline where folks can call in and get advice, information, and direction and options that best suits their specific situation. Because as you know, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to the different problems that we have, because there are so many complexities to financial situations that you really need to know how to navigate those roads, those paths that you can take to get the help that you require.
So if someone needs help, assistance with their financial situation, they could give your office a call and you could help find what education program might be suitable for them.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that number is 256-6080.
Okay.
And it's available 24 hours a day.
Oh, wow. Goodness.
There's voicemail available.
Okay, got it. Okay, great. And we'll post that on our screen so people can see it. Now, what are you seeing as some of the most common struggles that families living in our current economic environment experiencing? I mean, these are really tough times that we're facing, high unemployment rate and so on.
Well, I think the biggest challenge for most people is the fact that their income is stagnant, but we still have expenses that are increasing, you know, at the normal rate of inflation. So it's very hard to keep up. It's hard for folks to move forward, to improve their savings, build an emergency savings, do some of those basic things that we've been told to do. And I think people tend to get a little frustrated hearing what a lot of the experts advise that we should do with our finances, feeling like they can't do that in their current position.
Sure, because you expect the income to at least keep up with inflation, and if it's not doing that, and your property taxes are increasing, what would you do? Now, how do people try to help themselves stay on track to not be in a disastrous financial situation?
Well, it's not easy, and there is no magical answer to how we can stay on track. But my advice to folks is to do the things that we know to do, that are going to work, that are going to improve our financial health, and to look at the process as an overall process of improving our financial health. It might go up, might go down, but as we move through that process, we're going to put ourselves in a better position overall. And I think primarily in that what we need to do is develop a clear understanding of what's important to us and how that our money management skills will affect those things that are important to us, how they will affect our values. So even on a day-to-day basis, how our spending skills, how our bill-paying skills, how our budgeting skills are going to help us to improve the things that are most important to us in life.
So for example, if we say that, okay, giving my children piano lessons is most important to me, then you kind of work around that. I mean, that's maybe such a kind of a weird, important thing, but it's just prioritizing goals is what you meant.
Right. So a lot of times, one of the main things I'll do with most folks, whether it's a one-on-one setting or in a class setting, is we'll start with listing our values. What are the things in life that we feel are primary importance to us? And a lot of us share similar values such as family and friends, financial security. And then there are more individualized values as well that folks can have. But what we do is we begin to think about, what is it that affects those values when it comes to managing money? And what are some of the goals that we could pursue that are going to support those values? Whether it's saving for the down payment on a new home because having a new home is going to improve the quality of our family life, then we'd probably be pretty motivated to do what we need to do to pursue that kind of a goal if we know that it's possible and we know that it's something that we can attain.
I see. So it's really understanding the values. And probably sometimes it's good to be in a group setting when you're talking about that because you hear what other people are saying and what that might mean for you.
Yeah, I think that's very valuable. And I think it's good to know that we're not alone in this struggle, no matter what position we are in financially. For everyone, it's a challenge. And it's a shared challenge that we can meet together as well as we support each other along the way.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do people know to find you, though, to use your service? How do they know? How do they know that this service from Credit Education Bureau is available?
Well, we're working on that
to
get the word out there. So we try to take advantage of opportunities such as this. But folks can go to our website, which is crediteducationbureau.com, or they can go to the Catholic Family Center website, which is cfcrochester.org, and they can find our information there as well.
Sure. Actually, I've gone to the website, and there's so many different options available or support, including emergency support for people who might be needing shelter or,
Yeah, there's a tremendous number of fantastic programs and services that can help people in any situation that they find themselves in.
Now, what else, knowing the values, what other things should people be thinking about? I mean, what traits or character do they need to instill in themselves? I mean, your values, and then you kind of look at your spending and how money might be playing a role in that. Not might, always plays a role. And what other things does it take to really understand where you need to go and make it successful?
Well, it's always going to take a lot of discipline.
Yes.
And a lot of financial experts talk about the discipline factor. But I think where we get frustrated is, okay, well, how do we become more disciplined in managing our finances? And in working with folks over the years, I've found that many of us have a tremendous amount of financial knowledge and understanding of what is the right thing to do. We know we should build an emergency fund. We know we should save for the future. We know we should contribute to our retirement savings and take advantage of our 401k, etc. Okay, but how do we bridge that gap to do those things, to follow the right behaviors? And I think most of that comes down to really taking the time to develop your own outlook as to where you want to go, and then really bringing all the pieces together to see how that is possible for you. Because something very interesting happens if we see these different outcomes that we desire to achieve as just really a possibility more than a probability, then we're not disciplined enough to follow through. And a story that I tend to use quite often is of a woman that used to do long-distance swims back in the 50s. She would swim the English Channel, do many swims that were of a very long distance. And one particular swim that she was doing, she failed the first time. And it was no longer than any other swim she had done before, no more difficult. The only reason that she felt she was unable to succeed is that she couldn't see the shore because it was a foggy day.
I see.
And she was only a mile from reaching the shore, and she knew that. So in managing our finances, I think it's a very similar concept where if we can't see that it's possible and we haven't done the work that we need to do to kind of lay out the entire plan of how I budget my finances and spend my money, pay my bills, and here's how it will allow me to achieve these things, then we don't have the psychological foundation that we need to push through and be disciplined.
Sure. So what you're saying there, it's important to develop a financial plan. That if if I have $1,000, 100 can go here, 50 can go there. But if you've used up all the 1,000, there's really not a lot of room. So if you spend the money on something else, you won't be able to either meet the savings or have the money available for that other expense in
Correct.
that budget. So.
And really do the work to see how it does get you to that outcome and at what point in time it gets you to that outcome that you desire. Because that's when you'll really see that it is a possibility and a probability for you.
Sure, sure. And actually, sometimes there's different ways to deal with that. You could either do a budget, a mental count, you could do an envelope system, you could do a little notebook, right?
Right. And you want to use what works for you.
Right.
Because we all have different ways of approaching things, different personalities. So there's no one perfect system to follow in
Sure.
putting your own financial management plan together. What you want to go with is the one that's the simplest, that allows you to approach it without a whole lot of mental stress or anxiety, because then that's going to cause you to draw back and not want to look at those types of issues. And you also want to build a system that's going to create a lot of positive reinforcement along the way. So give yourself some small goals to start with that you know you'll be able to achieve and work your way up. For example, in adjusting our spending, a lot of times I will advise folks to start with just one particular area that they know that they'd like to do better in. Maybe they'd like to cut down on how many times they're going to Starbucks every single month. So rather than starting by saying, well, I'm going to quit going to Starbucks, start off by saying, okay, I'm going to go to Starbucks maybe 25% less in the next month. So we're still enjoying the same types of things, but we're keeping it under control. And then that gives us the positive reinforcement to maybe stretch it out a little bit further and see how well we can do.
Sure. So it's not really a matter of giving up everything. It's a matter of just moderating
Right.
and adjusting it.
You know, the thought that we're going to give up all these non-essential expenses and fix our financial problems is really a foolish way to approach it.
So you get frustrated, right?
You're going to get frustrated.
Right.
And then you're going to say, this budgeting thing didn't work for me. And we're going to have these negative feelings attached to that, which is going to cause us to, not participate in the right behaviors any longer.
Sure, and then you throw it and that's it, instead of giving yourself a chance to be successful at parts of the process.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's great. That's great. So when our lives are so busy, how do we organize our finances, though? Do you suggest that people sit down every day, every week, every month? How do people stay organized?
I think what you do is you figure out, what is your personal flow of life. And you find those opportunities where you're really in a good space to think about these types of things and plan specifically to address your finances. And also plan to focus on the things that are not going to cause too much stress from the start.
Okay.
Now, focus on the things that are, again, going to give you a little bit of a boost and feeling like you're headed on the right track rather than feeling overwhelmed.
Sure. So instead of saying, I'm not going to eat anymore, it's better to budget instead of $100 at the grocery store, maybe do it for $80 and try to be creative, right?
Right.
So,
and take an overall approach rather than just focusing in on one particular area. Because that overall approach will just require minor adjustments in those different areas.
Sure.
That will add up to a major adjustment in total.
Sure. I mean, even, driving your car, if you plan out your trips, you could save some gasoline instead of making a lot of trips in and out of the house. You could just plan out your trips and save some gasoline. I mean, all those different things.
Yeah, simple things can really make a big difference overall.
Now, what type of classes is offered from the Credit Education Bureau to help out? I mean, you've got different topics you've talked, in the website, but what are some of the classes that are offered?
Well, we offer a number of classes that relate specifically to managing your own day-to-day finances through budgeting skills, money management skills, as well as classes on handling credit and improving your credit history, getting out of debt, and also things relating to identity theft and clearing up some of those problems that you might run into. We have a menu of about 20 to 25 classes currently, and those classes are offered to adults right on through high school students. Many of them are done on-site at different agencies, as well as employer groups, through human resource departments, and at different faith-based organizations.
Great, that's great. We'll be talking about those specifically, but we're going to take a short break. Our guest is Chad Rieflin from the Credit Education Bureau from Catholic Family Center. And stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Every day is a brand new journey of discovery for your baby. And when that journey is by car, the LATCH system will help keep them safe. Anchor, tether, latch. It's easier and makes your car seat secure, so your baby's journeys will be safe and sure. To learn more, visit safercar.gov.
And we're back. I'm Nannette Nocon, and our program is It's About Money. Our guest today is Chad Rieflin, who is with the Credit Education Bureau through the Catholic Family Center. And we're here to talk about creating wealth. And Chad, I want to come back to the program and talk about two of the specific education programs that are offered. One is Building a Strong Financial Future, and the other is Becoming Wealthy. Let's talk about Building a Strong Financial Future. What is that program about, and who is it geared towards?
Building a Strong Financial Future is a class that we developed internally about 6 years ago. And it's a class that helps folks to address their day-to-day money management as it relates to their overall financial goals. And the class takes a focus really on setting up those goals and setting up a plan that is going to help you to pursue those goals and understanding the connection and the influence that your goals have over your day-to-day financial behaviors. So for example, if you eventually develop your goals specifically enough and you know that an extra $5 a day, even something that simple, is going to get you to that goal, then it's obviously going to change your day-to-day decisions when you've got an extra $5 in your pocket. Mm-hmm. Whereas previously we would think, well, I've got an extra $5, I see something that I want, why not buy it? Mm-hmm. When you have the goal in mind and you understand how that even that simple $5 a day is going to help you in the future to achieve an outcome that is very important to you personally and to the things that you value, it helps you to almost automatically become more disciplined in how you make your decisions.
Sure. You're absolutely right. $5 doesn't seem like a lot. You multiply that by 30 days and you got 150. You multiply with 12 months. You know, it's just builds up. So really to have that goal and what to do with that money is very important.
Right, and then it helps us to associate that amount, that savings amount, with things that we have power over. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we look at our goals just as the entire mountain, there's not a whole lot of things we can move around to make it happen. So if we say, okay, I need to save $5,000, our initial thought is, well, where am I going to come up with $5,000? Mm-hmm. Versus looking at it as, well, $5,000 is actually $5 a day over a little less than 3 years. Now I can take control over things that would typically cost me around that same amount every day. Maybe I cut back on how many times I go out to lunch throughout the week, or how many times I might go to the coffee shop, etc.
Sure. I mean, actually, just going out to lunch is a big deal, because if you bring your own lunch versus going out, you go out, maybe you'd spend $10, $15, or maybe more. Mm-hmm. You pack your lunch, it could be just a couple bucks.
Right. So. And again, it's not something that you necessarily would have to give up completely. It's maybe just giving yourself an allowance every single week or month where you put it in an envelope and, hey, this is my lunch allowance, and I give myself a reward every week. Maybe it's on Wednesday or Friday, and I take that money and I treat myself to lunch. So I'm still enjoying that same thing, but now I also get to feel good about the fact that I'm keeping it in control and it's appropriate for what I want to accomplish financially speaking.
That's great. Now, what's a typical audience for the program Building a Strong Financial Future?
That is definitely geared towards adults and folks who have to manage a household budget. So anybody that feels that they want to make an improvement there, they want to gain more control, become more disciplined, it's a fantastic class, and it's really one that helps you to have a different perspective. We do then get into some of the nitty-gritty of how you would lay out your budget, some of the tools that you can use to put a good budget together, and also the right perspective that you should probably have on what a budget is and what it does for you.
Now, how many sessions are there? Is it one class? Or
it's one class, usually lasts about an hour to an hour and a half, depending upon the group size. Mm-hmm. But it's a class that is also set up in a way where it can be tailored to many different audiences.
I see. So like you said earlier, it could be faith-based, it could be an office, work environment, it could be different. And can people go for a class by themselves, or does it have to be a group of people?
This particular class is offered in tandem with a class that we offer on improving your credit. every
okay.
single Tuesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m.
I see.
And anyone who wanted to sign up for that could actually call our office
Okay.
and become a part of that class. And then we also offer it on site for agencies that want to offer it to their particular group.
I see. Okay, that's great. I mean, because you're right, improving your credit is a big issue for a lot of people, because not only does it affect the rate that you borrow money now, it affects your auto insurance premiums, for example, and any other programs. They look at your credit, and if you're not a good risk, then they charge you more because it costs more to administer.
So many things, and those topics typically go very hand in hand when you talk about improving your credit. It's obviously a reflection of how we manage our finances overall.
Sure. Okay. And then you have a program for young people also, becoming wealthy. Talk to me about that. What is that program about?
Well, Becoming Wealthy is a program that we developed probably about 3 years ago, and it's mainly a collection of different classes that we offered over the years for high school students.
Okay.
So it's very typically taught in a high school classroom setting or for a youth group of some sort. And the main focus of that presentation is to show those students how much power they have in savings at that particular point in their lives. And the main message that's communicated there is that every student has the power to become a millionaire if they choose to through savings. And we actually lay out what we call the $1 Million Plan and teach students how they can start working, doing part-time work, even if it's a minimum wage job, for just a few hours a week. And they could take part of that money, not all of it, but part of it, and save it, and how it can grow through investments over the years.
Or just setting it aside and know that you have something to show for the time you've spent working or whatever.
Right, because as you're very familiar with, the longer that you have to save, the more potential you have to earn. So they're at a point in their lives where they have more opportunity than ever, as they've got this power to earn and this power to save. And again, they can become millionaires.
Sure. And I think it's great when a young person starts thinking about how they're going to be spending their money and allocating and saving their money, because basically those are the formative years where you're wiring your brain to think a certain way and picking up habits and ways of doing things. So if you start earlier, it's easier to keep up with it than to start, when you're in your 50s. Not that there's something wrong with that, it's still easier. I think, to get going at an early age.
Definitely, and obviously our young people, teenagers nowadays, are just bombarded with different messages about spending money. So one of the first things that's done in that Becoming Wealthy presentation is to address those kinds of issues and talk about spending habits and how we're influenced by the media and the types of things that we spend money on, and whether or not that type of behavior is going to produce the outcome that they desire in the future, and how that spending behavior can impact their ability to become a millionaire in the future if they choose to.
So is every decision that they take with the money that they have really impacts what's going to happen in the future?
Right, because that money that they spend right now has more power to create financial security in their lives than the money I spend right now has the power to create financial security in my life, because they have more time.
Sure. And they have less commitments, really. So it's just a matter of deciding what commitment they want to start in their lives.
Correct.
I mean, teenagers today have iPods. I mean, nothing wrong with Apple, but it's just that the trend is very expensive. So there's great. Now, how have you been able to reach the audience from age 15 to 21? Right, that's the target. How has that been received?
Well, it's definitely a different approach that you have to take with a group of young people. I typically don't wear, a suit.
Jeans probably is better.
Right. So they're going to receive information in a different form. So there's usually a lot of humor mixed in there. It's a very loose presentation, a lot of interaction along the way, so that they're also learning experientially with these concepts, because they are pretty abstract concepts. Even as an adult, it can be kind of difficult to really grasp how this all comes together. So for those students, they really need some concrete examples as well. So there's a lot of visuals in there. Pretty much every tool that we can throw at them, we use.
Yeah, because they want that multimedia type of presentation.
Exactly.
Now, what has been the reception? Have people, I imagine that from 15 to 25 is a wide range, or 21. Is it 21? Yeah. So you probably wouldn't group that kind of wide range in age just because there's difference in learning, or perhaps you have.
The groups are typically probably like 9th through 12th graders.
I see. Okay.
That would be the most common audience that receives that, but there have been other audiences that are of a more varied age range. But it's received quite well each time that we present it.
That's terrific. I think it's a great time, like I said, to build the skills at an early age and have that wiring done right. Otherwise, we have to rewire in such a major way.
Right, right.
And what I found is that many people in their 50s tell me that I wish my parents have taught me or coached me on how to manage money, my spending. Now that I'm older, it's harder to make those adjustments. So if children are touched at a young age, may not be their parent, but if there's a way for them to learn that would be really good, because it's not really taught in classrooms.
Not a whole lot. There are more schools that do it nowadays, but it's still not a requirement under New York State that financial education, has to be tested for. And there is a lot of research that shows that our money management behaviors are highly influenced by our parents or guardians as we're growing up, and many times we carry on those same exact habits that our parents had. So that is a very important time to reach someone and help them with these types of things that are going to affect their lives forever. Sure.
Not because a parent does a particular habit or pattern doesn't mean that's the way to do it. And you're absolutely right. When I meet people who are heavily in debt, their children begin their lives in that way too. So it seems like a cycle that hard to break unless you stop and say, well, wait a second, this is not how I want to live my financial life.
Right. So we try to offer that one piece of intervention there that can hopefully break that cycle.
Sure. Is that also an hour program, much like the Becoming Wealthy?
Yes, that's also an hour. Okay. Sometimes it's pared down a little bit to fit within a class period, so 40 minutes.
I see. Okay, very good. There's just so many programs out there. So we would invite our guests to check out the website for Catholic Family Center's Credit Education Bureau. And like you said, the phone number. Would you repeat the phone number for us?
Yeah, the financial hotline number is 256-6080. And from there, we can direct folks as to what would be the best course of action for them to take.
Sure. And actually, I know as a financial advisor, I encounter people who would need education in that way. And you've gotten calls from people that I referred to just because it's, they do need more one-on-one instruction in terms of, like you said, improving their credit and then also developing a plan to help reach their goals. So
sure, finances and credit are so complicated nowadays that I don't think any of us can claim to be the experts on any one particular topic, so it's something we need to continually learn no matter where we're at.
Now, most of the people that the population you cater to are local in the Monroe County area, is that correct?
Yeah, most folks are from Monroe County, Western New York. We don't have a specific geographic restriction. So I have actually done classes as far as Utah, which is pretty rare.
Yeah.
But we'll go anywhere that we can get to.
Okay, well that's great. That's great. I mean, you're right. It is a program that's suitable for anybody that's living anywhere. It doesn't even have to be the United States, So, but yeah, there's habits that we need to form. But it's certainly financial goals become more realistic and a reality when we have a plan to meet that. And it's just like you said, understanding what the values are and creating a plan to help meet that. So. This is great. It's been a wonderful program. I'm glad that we were able to reconnect and talk about the programs that are offered through the Credit Education Bureau and give the information to our viewers so that they can contact and get additional help if needed.
Great.
So I want to thank you. Our guest is Chad Rieflin from the Catholic Family Center's Credit Education Bureau. I hope you've enjoyed the program today. You could check the website of the Credit Education Bureau through the Catholic Family Center, and you could also review this tape on the website for PCTV. I'm Nannette Nocon. I thank you very much for watching, and until next time, it's about money.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you have any questions for It's About Money, please email Nannette at nnocon@aol.com. This program was produced through Penfield Community Television in Penfield, New York.